If you want to make music that is different and unique and memorable and that gets people's attention, Reaktor is one of the most powerful tools that you can have in your arsenal. If you're new to Reaktor or if you just want a better grasp on the basics, this short series is going to help you build the confidence to start building and modifying sound design tools in Reaktor so that you can start to develop a unique sound that will help your music stand out. So before I do anything, I need to create a new ensemble or I need to open one. In this case, I'm just gonna create a new one so that we can talk about the interface with a little more context. So up here in the corner, you have your basic menus. I'm not gonna go through these. A lot of them are self-explanatory, and the ones that are more advanced, we'll cover in a different video. So this magnifying glass up in the corner will show and hide the side panel. Now, when you're just getting started in Reaktor, there's really only two things in this side panel that matter. The first and most important thing is this icon all the way to the right, the little box with a checkbox on it. This is your properties. And these properties are going to change depending on what you are focused on in the window. That'll make a little more sense later. The other one that I want to draw your attention to is the preset list. If you're familiar with virtual instruments, you're familiar with the concept of presets. Whatever you're building in Reaktor, you tweak your settings a certain way and you want to save it, you're going to save a preset into the preset browser. All right, so with that out of the way, we'll just hide that side panel for now. Moving along the top, edit mode. Let's say you opened an ensemble from the factory library. By default, it's not going to be in edit mode. You're not going to be able to modify anything. You're going to be able to tweak the controls of whatever instrument it is, but you're not going to be able to mess with the innards of that instrument. When we create a new one, or if we want to edit a pre-existing one, we can click edit, and then we'll see this familiar two-pane layout. The first pane at the top is going to be your panel. The panel is going to contain knobs, faders. This is what you're going to be interacting with when you're actually creating music. The panel below it is the structure panel, and you can think of it like a wiring diagram or like a schematic. This is what is going on with your instrument under the hood. The info hints button, if you're just getting started, I recommend that you always keep this enabled. This is going to show very helpful pop-ups whenever you hover over any element in Reaktor. Next up is your input level. This is an input volume level control. That's probably going to be a microphone, but if you have an interface, you can go into audio and MIDI settings. You can select your input device there, and then the input level will control whatever the default input is for your interface. If Reaktor is receiving MIDI input, you're going to see this little blue LED to the left of it light up. And if Reaktor is sending MIDI output, you're going to see the little blue LED to the right light up. Pretty easy to understand that. Next to that is your main output level. This is your output volume for Reaktor, and this is something you're going to be touching and using probably quite often. Next to that is a little power button. This is going to tell Reaktor whether or not it should be running any processing on your instrument. If you turn this off, all processing stops for whatever is loaded up in the current session. So let's get Reaktor to make some sound. I see my outputs here. They're labeled 1 and 2. This is generally going to mean left and right. I'm not going to be using inputs, so I'm just going to delete these for now, just to simplify what we're looking at. And I'm going to drag this up a little bit and resize it. So all I have to do here is right-click anywhere in empty space. I can go to built-in module, and I have a list of different components that I can choose from. I'm looking for something that's going to generate sound. That's going to be an oscillator, and I'm just going to pick a sine oscillator. This is going to be a very mellow tone, a familiar thing. Before I do anything, I'm going to hover over this module and read the tooltips, okay? And not only just the module, but the input ports and the output ports, and I'm going to try to get an idea of what this module is doing and what it wants. Every module is going to want some kind of information in, or it's going to produce some kind of signal or information out of it. Oscillators generally need something to tell them how loud the signal that they should be producing is. So that's what this A stands for. It stands for amplitude control. The P stands for pitch. We can find that out by hovering over it. If we right-click on any input port in most modules, we can create a control or a constant. A control is going to give us a knob, and a constant is going to give us just a number. And in most cases, the knobs and the numbers are going to default to values that make sense for that input. So for pitch, I don't really care what it is, so I'm just going to create a constant. But for the amplitude, I want to be able to adjust the volume of the sound. So I'm going to right-click and create a control. You'll notice now that we have a knob in our panel area. So now I have amplitude that can go from 0 to 1. This is basically going to be my volume control. And I'm going to turn it all the way down before I connect these out ports, because if I don't, it might produce a sound that is way louder than what I'm prepared to listen to. And if you really want to be safe before you start hooking stuff up, you can turn your main output level down, and this will ensure that you're not going to put yourself in a situation where you're experiencing pain. So now we're just going to connect our outputs to both left and right, outs 1 and 2. And you'll notice that this little box with a picture of notes in it has turned yellow. This means that our module is active, and we can be sure that when we double click to reset our main volume and we start turning our volume up, that we're going to start hearing sound. There we go. And your volume control controls the tone. So what's next? How do we create a synth? We're going to do that in the next video. I'll see you there.